Hi, today I'm having another look at the modes and just going to give you one or two examples of how you might actually apply the modes in a real sort of playing situation. So hopefully you've seen the other videos on modes I've done so far, and you'll know a little bit about what they are. So if I take the Dorian as an example, okay, so the Dorian is the second mode. So if I play an A Dorian, it looks like this. And because that's the second mode, it means it's actually a G major scale starting on an A and ending on an A, because the G major scale is G, A, B, C and so on. Well, the second note is an A. So if I play a G major scale starting on A and finish on A, but still play the G major scale, that's actually an A Dorian. And when I played it just here, I was just putting it into its own position. Covered some of that in the last videos, so hopefully you're okay with that. Right, so an example of where you might use the A Dorian is, let's say you've got a chord sequence that's A minor, or A minor 7 even, D minor 7, G, A minor 7, something like that. So like something like this. Okay, so that's a chord sequence in the key of A minor, and you probably would guess that anyway, even if you didn't know that those chords were all in the key of A minor. If you had to guess where to play, you'd probably think A minor, A pentatonic minor. So, and that would be right, and that would fit. And if you wanted to do anything a bit more interesting than just pentatonic, you might go into the A natural minor, and that would fit as well. So over those chords, you wouldn't have to really think about modes, although you could do. Now, when I say you could do, what I mean is that you could use the A natural minor and the A pentatonic minor, and that would be really good, and that would fit. But you might decide that you want to do some other scale patterns and just explore some other areas of the neck. And what you could do is you could think, well, the A natural minor, which is the correct scale for this chord sequence, the A natural minor is the A Aeolian if you're talking modal names. Aeolian is mode number 6. So it's a bit confusing, but you have to work backwards and think, well, what is A, the 6th note of? What major scale has A as its number 6 note? And if you tried to work that out, you'd find that it's actually a C major scale. If I play a C major scale, number 6 note was an A, because it's C, D, E, F, G, A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that when you're looking at the modes of C major, number 6 is the A Aeolian, which is just a natural minor scale. So that means any time that you can play the A natural minor, like in our chord sequence, you could also use C major scale, which is Ionian, mode number 1, or any other mode of C major. So D Dorian, you could use D Dorian. You could use G mixed Lydian. You can use any mode that comes from the C major scale, because that's where the A natural minor has come from. So I'll just quickly loop those chords. I've got my loop pedal here. I'll put my headphones on so I can hear the loop, and I'll just demonstrate that quickly. So I'll play the A natural minor and pentatonic minor, and then I'll switch to the C major scale, and then I'll switch to D Dorian and G mixed Lydian, just to really show that they fit. I won't do anything very exciting with them, I'll just play them so you can see that they work. Okay, so that was an example of where you could use modes just because you want something else to play over the chord sequence. It's not because you have to use the modes. That's an important distinction there, is that the natural minor that I was playing in the first place and the pentatonic minor, that was fine. It's just if you're getting bored of the sound or the feel of it, because the sound is going to be similar when you're using the modes, but the feel of that pattern, then you run out of ideas with it, then you can use some of those others and that's going to work. And to someone listening, it doesn't sound like you've changed scale, because you're still using the same notes, you're just playing a different pattern which you might prefer or you might be less familiar with, which means that you'll play it in a different way because your fingers aren't quite so comfortable with it, which can be a good thing. Okay, now the other way that you can use modes, or that you do use modes, is when you have to use one. So let's take our chord sequence: A minor 7, D minor 7, G, A minor 7. Right, now imagine that the D minor 7, instead of being a D minor 7, it was a D major. The chord sequence would now sound like this. Now it sounded a bit odd to begin with because you as the viewer and me here have just heard the sequence with the D minor 7, so we got that in our heads. So hearing a major sounded a bit odd, but if I'd have played that one first and used this as an example, you wouldn't really have thought that D sounded too weird. It's not actually an odd sound, it's slightly unusual, but not very unusual. It's kind of not that weird a sound. I'll just play them again. Lots of songs use those kind of chords. So anyway, because that D is changed to a major now rather than a minor or minor 7, then it means we must be in a different key, because that D minor 7 was completely in the key of A minor with that sequence. We were just in key with that first sequence. But now I've changed it to a D major. It can't be in key, because you can't have a D and a D minor in the same key. They just don't. They're never in the same key. So that means that there's a couple of different approaches to this to work out what you could play, because potentially using the A natural minor is now going to sound bad over that D chord. It will sound fine over the A minor 7 and the G, but over the D, which is now major, our scale might not work. If you're lucky and you avoid certain notes over that chord, then it will be fine. But if you're unlucky and you hit certain notes, like for example if you hit that and the chord is this, it's going to clash. So what you can do is you look at what key these chords are actually from. Now that's probably another lesson video if you don't already know about how to do that, but I have done a few things about keys, so to check those out. I'll maybe put some links somewhere. But yeah, anyway, if you were to work out what key those chords all come from, even though it feels like we're in the key of A minor still, and it feels like an A minor song, the chords are technically from the key of G major. A minor 7, D and G. They're all from the key of G major. It's called a 2-5-1. Because the chord that goes with the second note in the key of G major is an A minor, or A minor 7. And with the fifth note is a D major, and the first note is a G. So we're actually using chords from the key of G major, even though we feel like we're in the key of A minor still. And the sequence felt like an A minor sequence. Feels natural to sort of play in the A minor position over it. So what that means is you could still play here, but you could use A Dorian, because A Dorian is the second mode of G major. So by using the A Dorian scale, this, you're in effect just playing G major scale, but starting on the A. Same notes. So that's the main way that people use modes, or the main sort of situation that people find themselves in where they would use a mode. So if I just record that chord sequence again, but this time I'm going to make the D a major and into the loop pedal, and then I'll demonstrate by playing the A Dorian. Now before I do that, I will just quickly play a bit of the A natural minor over it, and I'll play certain notes at certain times so that you can hear that it doesn't really work over the D. So of course, what happens next is that you could think, right, well, that A Dorian sounds really good over those chords, so I'll use that. But if you can use A Dorian, you can use G major and any other mode of G major. So kind of thing we did in the first example. So you could use the G major scale, which is G Ionian. You could use the D mixed Lydian. Now, maybe today sort of mentioning the Dorian and the mixed Lydian, apart from the Ionian and the Aeolian, which are major and natural minor. But there are other modes, there's 3 others that you could use as well. So you can use any of the modes of G over that chord sequence, even though it feels like we're in the key of A minor. So that's just an example, or a couple of examples of how you might use modes in an actual chord sequence. I can do more lessons on this and giving you more examples if anyone wants those, and put that in the comments. And any questions, put those in the comments as well. And please click like if you like this one, and subscribe if you haven't done already. Okay, thanks.